Happy Sunday, everybody. It's long video day at Dishes with Del, and today we are going to make Basque cheesecake. This absolute beauty. You know, it's Spanish in origin, and it is just absolutely yum. You know, you got to test your wits about you a little bit, because you've got to make sure that that wobble is just right when you take it out the oven, and that it hasn't gone too far, because you don't want to overcook it. But it's really simple, and it's a great crowd pleaser, and it's a really lovely, even like Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon, Sunday lunch treat, or just a, you know, yum thing to take to friends. And it's super simple to put together. So, we all know what that means. Let's jump to the ingredients. We're all familiar with this portion of the video. This is about the ingredients. So, for this Basque cheesecake, not many ingredients. Cream cheese, cream, sugar, eggs, tiny bit of flour, and some vanilla. All the quantities are on my website, so I've just put the link in the description box down below, and there you can find all of the recipes that you need for this cheesecake. I've got everything weighed out, but we'll run through it quickly. We've got 4 eggs. We're going to need 450 grams of cream cheese, 30 grams of flour, 1 tablespoon of vanilla essence, 470 mils of cream, and I believe it's 200 grams of sugar. First thing, turn the oven on. We need the oven at 210 degrees, so it's hot, because this is a Basque cheesecake. And you know, that literally turns, the sort of translation of that is burnt. You know, you'll see when it comes out of the oven what it looks like on the top. You know, very dark, but that's what it is. So I've got my cake tin here. We know this guy. And we know he comes out. So you want something like that, and then we are gonna just line it with some baking paper. We're gonna do a double line just so that none of the liquid comes out. So we'll get that ready. So I've got 2 pieces here of greaseproof, and we're just going to do what we have done before, where we just fold them. If we can get to it, so we just fold it in half, fold it in half again, fold it in half again, and one more time, so we get a triangle. We make sure that we have enough space here from the middle to the edge, which we do, and there's a little bit left over. So I'm just going to chop a little bit of that top section there off, because we don't need these bits. And then just give it a really good crumple so that it's nice and supple, I suppose. Because the thing is, what happens is that you know, it's quite a firm paper. And then we line the tin, but as you can see here, this side very low. That's why we have to use 2 pieces of greaseproof paper, so that we can make sure none of the liquid leaks out. And classic, I've just gone and put a hole in this one, so I'm just going to do another one. We'll try again. And you know what? After looking at this, I'm actually going to triple line it, because the last thing we want is this leaking everywhere. And that is it there. 3 times a charm. This way, at least we have a little bit of a better chance that it's not going to leak out. But never say never, right? We'll see. Even after doing this for as long as I have, I still have moments where I do not trust the equipment. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's that lined. He can go there. And then what we need to do is just get this all mixed together. So I'm going to be doing this with a hand blender, because I think that probably most of you at home have one of these. You know, if you had a KitchenAid, that would be also excellent, because, you know, it just works really well. Or you can actually do it in a big blender. If you've got a big blender, it's also a really great way to do it. But yeah, I thought we'd do it like this, so that we can kind of hopefully cover most people's bases of the equipment that they may have to be able to make this. So all you want to do here is just make sure that your ingredients are Kind of all at the same temperature. I would say that probably room temperature is better than cold. And then we're just gonna get it all working. So I've got my cream cheese, that's gonna go in first, and then we're gonna get that all mixed up. You really wanna make sure that when you're making this, that there are absolutely no lumps, because that's the absolute joy of this cheesecake, is the fact that it is so silky smooth. So you really wanna make sure, you know, this cream cheese, that's why it's better if it's a little bit room temp, because then you can really get rid of all of them lumps. If the worst came to the worst and your mix at the end was lumpy, you could pass it through a sieve, but we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that from the beginning we get the best possible result. So as you can see there, it's all soft and smooth. And what's really good, if you've got this guy, you know, the old spatula, I talk about him all the time, just to kind of bring it all back into the middle, so that when you add your next thing, it's incorporated into the whole lot. So next we are going to add, I'm just going to leave this here because we'll use him again in a minute. I'm going to add a little bit of the cream, and we're just going to work that in slowly, so that again we haven't got too much in there and we start to make it smooth. And this is a bit like, you know, if you're making, say, like a white sauce, when you incorporate things slowly so that you end up with no lumps. So when you do it nice and slow, you end up with a nice smooth product. So we'll add a little bit more. This time we can add a touch more. And just do it slowly. And as you can see here, it's really coming together nicely. So I reckon we can add another bit more of the cream. And again, we go slowly to start to incorporate it, and then we can speed up a little bit as it starts to mix. And it's already starting to look beautiful. So, we're gonna get these bits. Scrape it all into the bowl again, into the middle. And this is a really good technique. You can kind of smush it against the edge, and this is like a really good way to be able to see, okay, are there any lumps in it? You know, do I need to whisk it a little bit more? I mean, this looks pretty goddamn smooth, but I can see that there are a few little lumps in there. So we'll go back in. And that's great. And then we're going to add the last of the cream, and we're going to add the sugar. Now just make sure again that there's no lumps in this. You can just run your fingers through it. Just make sure there's no big lumps, because you want to make sure again that it's all incorporated super smooth. So we can just add all of that at this point so that we can whisk it all in. And as it starts to become looser, do be careful, because it might oh gosh, what a mess. Probably should have put this on a plate. Just make sure again that we take it all off the edges, because that sugar, you need it to start to dissolve in this liquid. And then we're going to add 1 egg at a time. So 1, and then we're going to beat it in. And then the next one. Finally, the last one. And then we need a tablespoon of vanilla, or maybe a tablespoon and a half. I mean, classically, a Basque cheesecake would almost does not have any flavouring at all. It would just be the egg custard, but vanilla is delicious. And then finally to that, we're gonna add the flour, but this, make sure you sift it all over the top. We want no lumps, and then we're gonna beat that all in. And that there is it. That's the mixture, ready to go. So now I'm just going to pour it into the tin, and we'll see, but I think I might be able to maybe make 2 little cupcakes worth, because this might be a little bit too much for this pan, so we'll have a look. But it might not be, I'm not sure, we'll see. So we'll pour it in. And what you want to do here is be very gentle, but you need to knock it, because we want to get them air bubbles out of there. Because I don't know whether you can see all these little bubbles on top? We kind of want to make them disappear. So by tapping it, we'll get that. You know, you can let it sit, the mixture, for maybe half an hour. You can also just tap it, or you can even just, you know, you can just take the spatula and just gently knock them bubbles off of the top. But with the mixture, if there are lots of bubbles in it, you may well see little kind of pops in the skin when it bakes, but you know, that's okay. It's a Basque cheesecake. So you want to try and get rid of as many of them as possible. So I'm going to pop it in the oven. And what I'm going to do on the lower shelf is just sit this in case it drips, so that there's something catching it and it's not burning in the oven. And this is going to go in for 25 to 35 minutes. Now, that is dependent on your oven, how quick, how fast it is. What you want to do is just make sure you keep an eye on it at the sort of 25 minute mark. And have a look. If it's starting to get really dark on top, we're going to put some foil on it. We want to make sure it's got a bit of a jiggle. It still needs to be a little bit set. So we'll come back to it in 25 minutes. We'll have a look in the oven and see where it is, and then reevaluate. And here we are, 28 minutes. It's got a tiny little jiggle left in the middle. I reckon we are done. See that jiggle? Ever so slight, but enough. Yes. Now we let it cool. Okay, so it's had a few hours cooling. As you can see, it's sunk right down, but hopefully we are good. So we're going to pop it out, pop it on the side. Have a look, shall we? Oh. I mean, it looks yum, like a classic Basque cheesecake. We're going to get a nice hot knife. Oh, I mean, it feels nice and soft. Let's cut a little wedge out. Oh, I mean, that just looks, it looks perfect. It's nice and soft still in the middle. I don't know whether we can see that on here. We've still got a nice soft interior. It's not over baked, and it just looks sensational. And let's have a taste, shall we? Oh my God. I mean, it's cheesecake, right? What is not to love about that? Oh my God, that's so yum. You know, you could make this a little bit more fancy and maybe make a chocolate sauce or a raspberry coulis, but you know what? This thing, it's delicious just on its own. So, give this thing a go. I mean, honestly, it really doesn't take very long. It's super simple, and I think any of you wonderful people out there could make it. So Oh. Let me know how it goes and I'll see you next week. Ciao guys.